What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Vertical Podcast. I am Byron Garcia. That gentleman to my left, that is the Jared Morphew. Thank you so much for tuning in and making us a part of your day. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And when I say that, just subscribing help grow the channel. And comment down below if you have a question, a comment, a suggestion, constructive criticism. We're open to it. We're all ears. So we welcome it. We want you guys to know that. So anyway. There is a lot of stuff that I want to talk about today. I think it's going to be good. I'm excited about the topic at hand. I think it's going to resonate with a lot of listeners, a lot of followers. So I'm excited about it. But before we dive into that, there's one thing I read this morning, matter of fact, that I was wanting to talk about because you're not really seeing it on mainstream media. I actually found it on social media. That I don't know. You may have heard about this. That in Congo, they went in. A radical Islamic group went in and pulled out overnight 70 men, women, and children, Christians, took them to the church and beheaded them.
I have not heard that.
Yeah.
That's the first time.
Yeah. And it said that they watched over, they didn't want them to be buried or anything for at least 5 days. And it said that 95% of Congo is Christian.
Wow.
But this radical Islamic group is trying to change that by force,
Mm-hmm.
And it said they've seen some other attacks as well in Rwanda. So why isn't mainstream? Why don't you see it plastered everywhere?
I don't know. I didn't know about this till just now.
Right. That's what I'm saying. And if I wouldn't have seen it pop up on somebody I follow, they put it on there and they were like, why is this buried, or why do you have to go look for it to even know that the persecution of Christians and we're under attack?
Right.
Now, Western civilization, we're so comfortable here that, it's too cold today. I won't go to church. I'll watch it online. Or, it's raining outside or I'll just go next Sunday or something. And you have these people that, were kidnapped and beheaded overnight, just for their
horrific.
faith. And and this is, in this case, it happens to be in the continent of Africa, but that's in a lot of places outside of the U.S., that where people are facing persecution. So, like I said, it's something that, and it's kind of tie into a little bit what we're talking about here, that having a social media platform allows us to put out content that mainstream media doesn't want us to know.
And you're asking me why haven't I heard of it?
Yeah.
And if I don't look, like you said, if I don't look at my social media account, I might not see something, because we do watch the regular news.
Right.
We have it on at least every other day. Not all the time, but maybe 30 minutes to an hour in the evening or something like that. And I haven't heard this.
Yeah.
So that makes me think that's part of the narrative. Like it doesn't fit their narrative. I'll put it that way.
Sure.
Like, as far as what's important to them, what they want us to see, that's not what they care about. That's not what they care about us seeing. They want to put in front of us what matters to them.
Yeah.
But on our social media, we can like pages, follow pages that matters to us, those concerns. So that's probably why you've seen that, because that's someone you follow. And I think it's very important who we follow, and because if we're following the wrong information, we're going to get stuff that's going to hype us up, put us against each other. Yep. Instead of, like you're saying, there's Christians dying, being persecuted in Africa, Middle East. There's all kinds of China, everywhere.
Yeah.
But we won't hear about it unless we're plugged into the right outlets.
And like I said, that I read it, and it's like anything, right? You read a story, you see it on the news, or you read some scripture out of the Bible, and you skim right through it. But these are real people, real situations that are dealing with real problems. And again, because we're so comfortable, it's just, it's not really too close to home for me.
It's a world away.
Yeah. But if I feel like if it's any other type of group, it's all over the news, right? It's genocide. It's this. It's that. It's where so and so is this religion. This, these people are under attack. But yet, as Christians, we're just on the back burner.
Yeah.
And we have to report our own news.
Yeah.
So, and the reason I bring this up is not just one, to shed light on it, but two is, well, what can we do about it? We just did a podcast on the power of prayer. So this is exactly where we get to practice that and say, hey, you know what? I am going to go to God and intercede for my brothers and sisters. Even though I don't know them personally, they are believers in the faith like we are. So I have to stand up for them. And as far as taking this to God and saying, laying this situation at their feet and say, protect them, watch over them, because they are believers and I would want somebody to do the same if we were in that situation and say, you know what, there's brothers and sisters around the world praying for me and my family.
Yeah.
And so we need to do the same for them.
Right. I made a lot of friends last year when I went to Africa.
Right.
And Christians, pastors.
Yeah.
And that kind of hits close to home to me, because when you were naming off all these different countries in Africa, I thought, how long is it until it gets down to South Africa where they're at, where Christianity is a lot more accepted, a lot widely accepted. People are open to the gospel. And how long is it till that Islamic extremists get down that far? Yeah. They're like, we're not doing that anymore. Yeah. Do we stop, or do we keep going over and fighting the good fight? And that's where it starts hitting close home to me.
Yeah.
So,
and that's why I brought it up for the people that haven't been watching from day one. Jared took a mission trip to Africa. Where?
Yeah, Malawi.
Malawi.
Yeah.
So that's why I brought it up. Not just for that reason, but I knew that it would, strike a chord with him, that because he has actually been there and he's going back.
I'm going back in 2 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, we'll definitely keep Jared and the group, in prayer. And yeah, it's looking to spread. They're trying to take it by force, is what the article read. And it's, if you read the Bible, the times they're only going to get worse.
Yeah.
And I don't mean to be the bearer of bad news or, spoilers.
Well, Jesus, he told his disciples, and I believe it's meant for us too, when he said, remember when the world hates you, that it hated me first. And that's the world. Even the news outlets, everything, that's the worldly news, the worldly view on Christians. So when they hate you, remember, they hated me first, what Jesus is saying. So you're right. It's not like one day they're all just going to turn a new leaf and say, you know what?
Never mind.
I like you guys. You're all right. It's not going to happen.
And, and I did say, if you read the Bible, it's going to get worse. But the ultimate spoiler is, hey, we win in the end, right?
That's right.
So, the victory is ours through Jesus. So just hang in there. We're praying for you. And like I said, just wanted to bring light to the situation, because I know it's probably buried behind, if it was an actual newspaper, it'd be on the back page of it or something like that, where nobody reads. But anyway, so today we want to talk a little bit about social media and our phones and the influence that it has on us, and how it is like a double-edged sword, right? Yeah. How it can go both ways. It can be used for good, for bad, can lead you, and you can help use that as a tool to help guide others or completely lead others astray.
Absolutely.
So let me ask you this question. Do you remember life without cell phones?
Yeah, I do.
So I know what year. Do you about remember what year? I have the information here, but I just want to, in my mind, I was kind of off a few years. I was in the ballpark, but it was like, for me, it was one of those things. Just because it had come out I had it a certain year, I didn't get it as soon as the cell phone dropped.
Same here. Yeah. It was a thing, but it didn't mean I had it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got you.
So how much different in your experience, because you were probably pretty young when cell phones came out.
Mm-hmm.
So what difference do you see in you growing up without a cell phone as maybe one of your two kids that you have right now?
How much time you got?
Hey, let's do it.
So when my first cell phone that I had for myself was the year after I graduated high school. But there was cell phones before that. Right. I think 2002 is when.
That's when you graduated?
No, I graduated in 04, but 2002, a couple years before I graduated, I was like a sophomore, junior.
Okay.
When kids started having them, but they were the big block Nokia phones with Snake games, and parents wouldn't let them take them to school or anything. But like on a ball game, when we'd go way out late at night and we're coming back in, they'd give them to their kids. Like each family had a cell phone. Yeah. See what I'm saying? And whoever went the furthest, you're the one that got the cell phone. Limited time, limited minutes, limited messages. I don't even think we had text messaging on our plan. Yeah. And our family had that. We had one. So when I go on a track meet 3 hours away and I had to drive home late at night, Mom would give me the cell phone. It would be mine. So, but that was the last 2 years before I graduated. When I had mine was about 3 months after I moved away because they realized it was easier if I just had my own. Yeah. But yeah, so growing up, like as a kid, from the time I was born to, I don't know, my early teens. So yeah, no cell phones, wasn't even a thing, wasn't even a thought.
So you're probably outside playing.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And here's the difference. The phones, and I noticed this so much. Then I get it because I get sucked into it too, where it's just you just get sucked into this hole of scrolling. And I know kids, and it's not their fault. And I'm sure that they thought that about us with video games, like Super Nintendo and all that came out. They're just going to stay inside all day playing those video games. Well, we're kind of the same, but it's more of a hook with a cell phone. Because it's feeding that constant need for entertainment where they don't have to entertain themselves. It's instead of entertaining themselves, it just brings it. It's almost like a lazy entertainment. You just get to sit there and let it overload my mind and all these video games and bright colors and just sucked into it for hours and hours and hours. Yeah. And some parents are okay with that. They just let them go do that for hours at a time. And some of them, like me, think it's unhealthy. And it's like, you can't do that. I'll give you a 20, 30 minutes. And then after that, you got to go find something to do.
Yeah. They say everything in excess is bad. It doesn't matter. You can plug in anything, right? Alcohol, whatever. Right. Anything in excess is a bad idea. So for me, I remember, I've shared here before, I was born in California. So I remember out there, it's not like it is here. We live in the South, and it's a rural area, so there's lots of land and pastures and trees and whatever, horses, cows. So, but that's not at all how I grew up. It was a big city, and we'd go out, and I'm sure you've seen movies or whatever where kids are out there playing on the street. And, we'd be out there on the street and somebody's like, yell, car. So everybody, all the kids, go split it, to the side and stuff. Car goes by and then it will all come back and play. So, and then you look up and there's so many pairs of shoes where people tied them together and throw them on the cables and the lines, the power lines and stuff. So that's how I grew up. And the difference is because, of course, I didn't have a cell phone, but it was like we played with the kids, the neighbors around I grew up in an apartment, so it's like go get so and so from apartment this one or downstairs, and so we'd all meet out there and play or whatever, and so, but I see nowadays how it's not like you can drive through town on the way out of town, whatever, and you just don't see a lot of kids outside.
Oh yeah.
There's like sure. The yard's fenced in, but you don't see any. No. There's no sign of kids there, or and some people still have the little swing sets or whatever, and it's like it's never used. Like it's like I drive by that house every day and never see a kid on that swing.
Yeah, it's getting stuff growing around it. And
and it's like okay, but so it just. Go ahead.
Well, when you're talking about kids, it started bringing back stuff to my mind. My dad, he had a farm when I was growing up. And my cousins, they lived, it was just right across the road, like where their house was. But it was far enough where you could just yell at the top of your lungs and they could hear you. Yeah. But if you whistled, that's how we learned how to really whistle really loud. Yeah. And so I knew when they were home, because all of a sudden we'd hear that really loud whistle, and I'd whistle back and forth. It's like, okay. So we wanted to play. It was like 5, 6, 7, 8 years old. And that's when we knew, go ask our dad. So they'd disappear for a minute, and then all of a sudden we could see them start running over there, or we'd run over there. And it was just because we knew, and outside because there's nothing to do inside the house or inside an office or something like that. So we just get bored and we want to hang out with our cousins and start whistling back and forth. So that's.
I'd be in trouble. I can whistle a little bit, but not really loud. So I'd have to make some kind of like loud, like chimpanzee noise or something like that. You know, it's like, oh, that's Byron.
I scare the youth with it. I learned. It's kind of like, I guess you have to learn if you want to play.
Yeah.
So Heath, my brother, he can't whistle nearly as loud as I can. He can do a normal whistle, like like that. I learned the coach whistle.
Yeah,
like the kind
Phil
that
Jackson.
Yes. Oh yeah.
Sticks his fingers in.
Well, I can do it better without it. Okay. And you want me to do it?
Nah, I'll take your word for it.
All right, I don't hurt your ears.
Yeah.
But the youth, that's how I get their attention. They're like, oh, why'd you do that?
Yeah.
But I think I learned it because I had to, because if I didn't, I wouldn't be able to play outside with my friends to get them to come over.
Yeah.
So, it'd be totally different with cell phones. I'd be in the house texting them, hey, man, you want to play this online? Yeah. And nobody'd be outside.
Yeah.
Right?
So do you remember your first cell phone and what kind was it?
Yeah, mine was that year after I got out of high school, and it was the Nokia, the old block one. You could throw it on a wall, it'd shatter, put it all back together, and call your mom in 30 seconds.
Yeah, you can run over with a car. And
we tested that. Not with the car, but I did test about throwing it against the wall. Yeah. And sure enough, you could put it back together and call somebody. Yeah. Crazy.
That was my first cell phone as well. I got mine my senior year because I started working when I was a junior in high school. So I worked my senior year. I got a cell phone my senior year, and it was the Nokia. Had it for a little bit. Again, if you could knock somebody out with that thing.
Oh yeah.
You know, it's
a weapon.
Yeah. So if somebody younger doesn't know what we're talking about, look up Nokia. I'm sure it had a little series number behind it or whatever, but mine lit up, had like green keyboard or whatever.
Yeah, same here.
So maybe they were all that way. I don't know. So mine was. And
did you have a little carrier for it?
Yeah. Yeah. Now it looks so, and you still see people with a little carrier, and it's like.
I thought I was cool. I had a Ford Ranger, and I had, where your visor comes down above your head. Uh-huh. It had the little clip-on one, which slid into it. I thought it was so cool because I was driving at night and it would light up green above me. I'm like, I'd slide it out of there and start talking.
Here, ladies. Yeah, the green.
I thought it was so cool.
I thought I was doing something when I got the latest and greatest, because I got the Motorola Razr. Do you remember that one?
Yes. You had made it when you had one of those.
I had it had just dropped, and I was like, I gotta have that. Like, that looks so different, so slick.
Yes.
It was the Nokia wasn't a flip phone.
Right.
It was just a brick with numbers on it, and the Razr was actually a flip phone. It was so cool, but kids nowadays won't know what this is like. But remember, if you wanted to type like a C when you
beep, 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 beep.
Yeah, you hit that like the 1 3 times because it had an A, B, and C.
Yeah.
Okay, and it took forever to. Some people were still pretty fast at it,
you know.
But nowadays it's a whole different keyboard.
You can just say it.
Yeah, I really and literally
it's amazing.
But so that was mine as well, the Nokia. So all this that we're kind of setting the groundwork for is because of what we want to talk about. So the influence that a phone, this device coming out, and then social media coming years later, the influence that it has had on our lives and, the generations after. So influence, the definition is the capacity to have an effect on the character, development, and behavior of someone or something. So the capacity to have an effect on the character, development, and behavior on someone or something. So who has been the biggest influence in your life? Now that we read that definition, and I read it twice, it didn't skip, and it was a glitch that you heard it twice. I read it twice for a reason. So who has been the biggest influence in your life?
I mean, outside of my parents, or just I can name them?
Just anybody in your life.
Definitely them, my parents. I'd have to put them together because they both weigh the same amount as influence goes in my life. The way I think, I mean, because that's what I grew up in. So definitely my parents.
Okay. So is there anybody But and then I said the biggest maybe influence or whatever. Is there anybody else in your life that you feel like has influenced your decisions, the way you carry yourself, just in general? Do you think? I mean, and I'm gonna ask you this: do you think your wife has had any type of influence on you?
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Good or bad?
It's been good. I mean, I could joke and say good and bad. I mean, but when you live somebody for decades, you just tend to start. I don't know. You start thinking the same way. It's like when you hang out with one of your friends.
You'll start looking like.
You start like, yeah. I start looking just like her. We start dressing the same. Yeah. No, but it's you start rubbing off on one another, and she's picked up some of my traits, and I picked up some of hers. She's very kind, very gentle, very loving, and that's. And I can be that, but I have a tendency, and it's not a gift. I used to think it was, where I could just cut somebody off and I was okay with it. Like if I never talk to them again, I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
Or if you see somebody struggling, I'm like, well, it sucks to be them, you know. Like it's, but now I'm being honest. But as I've gotten older and been with her for so long, I feel for people like I haven't ever felt before because I see it through her eyes, and now I see it that way too. And it's also from being in Scripture and also maturing as a Christian. But she's helped me with that too, keep holding me accountable and things like that.
A little more compassionate towards people.
Yeah. Oh yeah, big time.
Yeah.
And being through trials in my own life that I didn't see it like they see it, now I do.
Yeah.
So yeah, she's definitely had an influence on me.
You know, and I feel for, and I know that's not the answer for everybody because not everybody grows up with their parents or whatever. Or so I know the answer. I asked that question because whoever's listening out there, your situation may be completely different than ours. For mine as well, if I were, to put it on a balance, it's mom and dad are, have been the biggest influence in my life. And, mom, for me, I've shared this before, how much of an influence spiritually she has had on myself and my brother. She, as far as growing up, English isn't my first language. So Spanish was, and it was very important for her, for us to not forget it. So she taught us how to read, write, and speak in Spanish. And she would tell us that we could go learn English at school, but when we came home, we would have to speak Spanish. That was house rules or whatever. So, and she was very, particular about our grammar, learning how to, when we wrote, like putting a little accent on top of it and putting, it's just everything. She was very, we had to be grammatically correct when we wrote something in Spanish. So, and I think it surprises people because some people ask me, it's like, well, can you speak Spanish? Like, yeah. Are you fluent? Yes, I am. And then the Spanish speakers, when I speak Spanish to them, I think it surprises them how well I can speak it. And when I write it, that how, it's grammatically correct. I'm sorry. And it's like, we can do both. I don't have to be, favor one so much, just because I speak English, I don't have to have a broken accent or Spanish the other way, So, but I absolutely credit her for that, for teaching us everything from cooking something basic for ourselves, just because they weren't home, they worked, so they weren't there when we got home from school necessarily. So fixing something basic to eat, cleaning house, ironing, washing our clothes. Now I'm talking about, we're kids. I was 12-ish when I moved here. So this was in California. So I was 10, washing my clothes, ironing my clothes, fixing ourselves something basic to eat. So that's just the impact that she has. It's like, hey, independence. Hey, I don't have to be here for you. And it was one of those things where it's not that she didn't want to. She'd come home after a hard day's work and cook dinner and, take care of us. But it was one of those things where I remember her specifically telling me, I don't know if she had this conversation with my brother, but she's like, don't ever feel like you have to depend on a woman to do something for you. Because if you're single one day or whatever, it's like, what are you going to do? Not eat because there's not a woman in the house or whatever, your hands aren't painted on, do it yourself. Right. So she was always big on stuff like that. And, of course, Dad teaches us like the work ethic. Dad is the hardest working person I know. And, you know, you talk about nights, weekends, holidays, it didn't matter. He was at work. He came home. He did stuff around the house. And I remember still, you know, as in my teenage years already here in Arkansas, we'd go out and in the backyard, and hard day's work, he'd come home, you know, greasy, dirty, sweaty, and he would take time to go out there and play basketball in the backyard. So that now as a parent growing up and having this crazy work schedule that I do, that I have, is to still come home and make time, be intentional about, you know, spending time and going out there and dribbling a basketball, whatever, for 20, 30 minutes with my son or sons, because I want to spend time with them. They matter to me. And whatever, it could be with the steel toe boots on, he was out there playing with us, you know. And I didn't so much appreciate it. I enjoyed his company, but I didn't appreciate it the way I do now, you know. And so shout out to my mom and dad. You know, it's everything you did. I see it now as a parent, and I still don't know all the sacrifices you made for my brother and myself, but they definitely have had the biggest impact. Of course, you know, my brother, just he's older, so having somebody just to look up to, you know, and sometimes they pave the way. It's like, oh, okay, like he got in trouble for that. That's, I don't need to do that. Or it's like, oh, look, he did something good. And so you just look for somebody, and somebody cooler, right? And somebody you just want to be like big bro sometimes.
Isn't it funny how we don't really see what we've had until we go through the same thing ourselves as adults, and we have kids, and we can appreciate all those things that they've done for us. Yeah. And I think about that in a biblical perspective, how we might not always appreciate the things that God gives us until we realize, like, oh, wow, thank you, Lord, for doing that for me.
Absolutely. And I don't want to forget to shout out my wife also. She is the water to my fire, for sure. You know, she's always, God bless her. You know, you've seen me at my lowest, and you've seen me at my highest, and you have stuck with me. So I greatly appreciate it, and I love you for it. And thank you for always pushing me to be a better version of myself. And it has been slow and a long process, but I appreciate you sticking with me. So anyway, I know that there are people, and if you're if you're listening, shout out our influences in our lives. You know,
that's right.
So I know there are people, and it's gonna be, if you're listening, watching, it's somebody different for you probably than it is for us. Yeah. You know, maybe a sibling that raised you, an aunt, a grandmother, or whoever. Shout out to them, and don't forget. I always end the show telling you, it's like, don't forget to tell the ones that you love them. Don't forget to do that, because you're just like, oh, I'll just talk to them next week, and it's like, doesn't take that long to send a text, right? Or swim by on your way home. You okay? I love you. Give you a hug. Thank you for everything. I'm out.
You know, one of the biggest influences, and I know you've asked that earlier, and I've had time to sit here and think for a little while. His name was his wife. Actually, she comes to our church. Barbara McManus. Her husband, we call him Brother Bob. He was my pastor growing up as a kid until I was a teenager, and then they went somewhere else. But he was that pastor for me growing up. And there's so many things. He passed away last year, he's such a great man. But the way I think and the way I study the Bible, the way I view a lot of things, he's had a massive influence on that. I've sat under a lot of his teaching, Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night, and all those events and everything like that. And that guy was a true door knocker. Like, he would go around door to door throughout the community, and every day checking on people, going and ministering, going and saying, hey, where do you go to church? Never stopped. And I mean, just seeing that passion, that drive, that motivates me and convicts me to this day. I'm thinking, what are you doing, Jared? Like, that guy was, 50, 60, 70 years old, and he never stopped, just door knocking and witnessing, just being an awesome reflection of Jesus. And I as a minister now, I look back at him and I see the influence he had on my life, and it still convicts me to this day. I still think, and she gave me, thank you so much, Barbara, if you're listening to this, she gave me from 1991 to 1997, every sermon and lesson he had prepared for and done in his notes. Really? And it's amazing. And I thought, I'm getting to sit here and read this guy's most inner thoughts on how he prepares and stuff like that. And it's giving me ideas for sermons and lessons. And it's just, and I didn't deserve that. And he had so many different things because he had sons and things like that they got notes and way more cool stuff than I got.
Yeah.
But I felt so blessed, and I'm so thankful that she was, I don't know, just let me have something like that to get to see into what he did. But it did have a big impact on my life.
And spiritual father figures are important. So if you can take somebody under your wing, like a Timothy, right? Like Paul with
Absolutely.
Timothy, and say, well, they're too young. They don't know that. Well, how are they going to know?
Right.
Until you pour yourself into them.
Right.
Somebody told me one time that a good leader is one that knows how to reproduce himself. So some people say, well, I've gained all this knowledge and wisdom and experience from my trials and just over the years, and they're kind of selfish with it. It's like they don't want to share what they've learned with others. It's like, close to the chest. But the good ones, the real ones are the ones like, hey, let me pour myself into you.
Yes.
And just real quick, and just that way you can pay it forward and just continue to grow.
Yes. And you don't know what kind of a return you're going to get on that. And you might not get anything. Right. But I think some people go in that mindset of, well, that didn't work. I'm not doing that anymore. Right. But it shouldn't be that. It shouldn't be, if I give this, I expect something in return. It should just be giving it freely, like Jesus does for us. And I don't think of it as like a boomerang effect, except for I'm not the one catching it. He throws it out there, and when it comes back, he doesn't catch it. I'm the one that caught everything from it because now I have it. Now it's my turn to just let it fly and see where it's going to land. But
so do you think that the impact that, let's say you said your parents as equal, you think that influence and that impact that they had on your life, do you see that carrying over to the way you raised your kids or the type of husband that you are?
It has a huge impact on how I raise my kids. Do I do some things different? Yes. Yeah. But for the most part, it's pretty close. And I can't help it because that's the way I was raised. Yeah. So that's the way I get the same temperament from them.
It's the blueprint you use?
Yeah. But for the most part, there are some things I change. But it's small things. It's not major things. Yeah. Major things is mainly the same thing I grew up in.
Yeah.
But
it's the same as myself, and because circumstances are different, so we tend to change a few things, tweak things here and there. But so we see the importance of our character and the impact it has on our loved ones and for generations to come, because just like the impact that your parents had on you, you're having on your two kids, and I'm sure for the most part they'll carry over to their kids and so forth and so on. So we see how important it is to have that positive influence on somebody, because one way or another, we're going to have an impact and we're going to leave a legacy behind. Positive or negative, we're leaving one. So it's your choice on how you want to live your life and how you're remembered and the type of influence you're going to have, and how your kids, if you have children, how they remember you, and are they going to carry that on to their kids and say, oh, hey, you know what, like, sorry, kids, grandma and grandpa didn't give me a very good example, or they just weren't around, or dad left when whatever and didn't raise me. So if you're there, you're part of your kid's life, make sure you're doing good by them. And if you're not a part of your children's life, and I know circumstances are different, sometimes a broken family, two separate homes, sometimes you're not allowed to see them for certain reasons or whatever. But if you are allowed to be around them and you just haven't made the decision to, because you may be scared they're not going to love you back, or you're just ashamed maybe of how things ended, take the time, and be a part of, because they do need you. As my life would look a lot differently if my mom and dad were not in it. I see the impact now that they have had in my life. And I don't know. I don't know how it would have turned out without all the advice and influence they had on me growing up. So, there's a quote that is out there that I've seen on social media that I absolutely love, because we talk about the influence of parents and them not being there or being there. And I'm sure you've heard it. And it says, tough times create strong men. Strong men create easy times. Easy times create weak men. Weak men create tough times. And it's the cycle.
It comes full circle.
Right. But it's one of those, you hear that, but it's one of those things where you want, as a Christian household, to say, okay, you know what? We've been blessed and we want to continue this blessing. We don't want to be cyclical where it's, okay, you know what? Every so many generations, we fall into this curse or this addiction and this, like, no, it doesn't have to be that. It doesn't have to be that way. It can be straight, it's like, I bless my generations to come. That is the inheritance I am leaving for my children, and their children is a godly one, a one where, to love and serve the Lord is the way.
Yeah. That's almost, it's not biblical. It's not in scripture what you said, but it is, because you think about the Old Testament and the Israelites, the godly men, and then all of a sudden they'd start to stray, and then it'd just get horrible, and they'd cry out to God, and it would go good again. It just was this over and over and over.
We talked about Miriam in the desert when they were, last week, and it's hard to believe that you go through this amazing miracle of being set free from captivity to crossing on dry land and the Red Sea just opening up. Mm-hmm. And it says that a few generations later, they didn't know God.
Right.
It's like, how do you let that happen? And is it on us as parents?
Right.
Because they're not born knowing God. Like, we have to teach them, right? Mm-hmm. So at some point, was it just them, like, saying, okay, we told a story to our kids because they weren't born when that happened, but somehow they didn't necessarily pass it on to the next generation, because it literally says, it's like there was a generation born that didn't know anything about God.
Exactly. They weren't told. A little left out until there was none there at all. And then they all fall astray. And I think that's with America. If it's slowly, they say how the churches are slowly, the numbers are going down in churches. Yeah. Attendance is dropping. Yeah. All around the nation, but other countries around the world are growing. The churches are getting bigger. There's more attendance going. And I think it's because, like, people in my generation, our generation, our parents, man, they were all in, going, making sure their kids are in church. And then our generation comes along and we're like, I don't have to go to church anymore. We'll just go on Easter and Christmas because I still need to go. I feel convicted. And I want my kids to have that value. There it is. There's the word. I want to have that value in their life. So I'm just going to go here and there. And then those kids, they're not even going to go on Easter. Yeah. They might go on Christmas because it's about Jesus and they've heard that. And then the next generation, what? Who's Jesus? Why do I need him?
And it's like you said it here a couple episodes ago, where he's like, you sprinkle it for the feel goods.
Yeah, here it is, just a little bit, just to make your family feel good before you get home.
You go shopping for the little Easter dress for the kids, and something maybe for whatever they call them, like CEOs.
Yes, Christmas, Easter only.
Christmas and Easter only.
Yeah, well, that's true.
Don't be that type of CEO.
No, and the thing is, we're supposed to seek the Lord, and that's not just on three times a year. It's like every day. That's a relationship. It's not a religion. I think Jesus hated the word. He hated religion because the religious establishment back then was not exactly up to par to God's standards.
We should as well,
And yes, exactly.
So, in 1992, IBM announced the first smartphone.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, but it wasn't available to the public until 1994. Oh. So that is the device probably that changed the world as we know it.
Uh-huh.
Right? Because there's a lot of cool things that have been invented along the way. Like, for me, I'm like, microwaves.
Yes.
Microwaves were if you didn't, kids nowadays, they didn't grow up without a microwave.
That's true.
We had a toaster oven growing up.
Yeah.
So,
we didn't even have that because we didn't use it, I guess, for anything. But I remember the first microwave because I put Pop-Tarts in there and I did it way too much. I didn't know how long to do it. Burnt a lot of stuff growing up.
Well, you can't put the wrapper in there, it starts sparking or whatever.
Learned that too.
Yeah. Well, the kitchen's on fire, Mom. I'm not sure what's going on.
Yeah.
Also, now, one thing that came out, and I'm not saying here recently, but in recent years, that I'm like, whoever invented this, give that man a hug and buy him a steak dinner
air conditioner.
Well, yeah, that central heat and air is I heard something the other day. I said, think about the commodities we have as Christians nowadays, because the emperors of Rome nor the pharaohs of Egypt knew what it was like to have central heating air.
That's right.
They were just hot. They were just being fanned. It's like when we're like, it's hot.
Point in case right now, we're just sitting in here, and it's nice in here. 32 degrees outside. It's chilly.
Yeah,
we're nice.
It's foggy too. Bad foggy.
Very foggy. We're in here. We're lit up.
Yeah.
I mean, we can talk to people that we can't even see. And the Pharaoh, you're right. But I didn't even thought of it that way.
And so they didn't even know what it was like to take a hot shower.
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
Because it's like okay, if at the most they would drop hot stones in a tub.
Right.
But they're not going to stay warm very long, and you had somebody pouring a bucket over your head, and it's like, so the commodities we have nowadays, right, that those great emperors and leaders did not have.
No.
And the people saying this were like, the biggest discomfort we have is like, why isn't my cord for my iPhone reach my king size bed?
Right,
it's like, I need a bigger, longer cord here, and so that's kind of like some of the things that, it's okay. So back what I was saying, and some of the things that have changed, over the years. But what I was saying was, one of the things that was invented that in recent years that I really appreciate is an air fryer. Do you have one?
Yes, I don't use it. Amanda knows how. I don't know how, but yes, we have one.
It changed my life.
It changed your life.
Yeah, it is so amazing. Before if you. I don't know. Are you one of those people that eat at a restaurant? It's like, I don't eat a to-go box. Even if you just ate half of it.
I'm that way. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, you don't take anything with you?
I mean,
you're that guy.
I'm not going to eat it again, and I don't want it twice. I mean, I would, but to my own credit, I usually eat almost the entire thing, if not all of it. So
okay, so you order what you eat.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay, so growing up, and I think that is not necessarily maybe a cultural thing, but mom and dad, I've shared before, grew up in a third world country, so there wasn't a lot to eat always. So growing up for us, we had to eat everything on our plate. Mm-hmm. There was like, you eat what's on your plate. Mm-hmm. Do not waste. And it was always like there's kids starving, wanting food because they grew up that way.
Right.
So it wasn't just a fairy tale, a little story we heard. It was like their childhood that we heard. So that's why, like, with us, and my wife knows, it's like today's like, she sees me eating, and it's like, and whatever I don't eat, okay, it's going home with me. Mm-hmm. But it's like, if it was, let's say, whatever, I had fries left over, I wouldn't take the fries because microwave fries are just kind of like soggy and
gross.
Yeah. They taste terrible. So, but now with a air fryer, revolutionized the game. Man, that's throw them in there. They're crispy. A slice of pizza. You eat cold pizza?
No, I
like people
warm
like
pizza. Yes.
And you throw a slice of pizza in there, man, it's
just like it was cooked. Yeah.
Straight out of Italy.
Wow.
So
wow.
That's how good it is. If you don't have an air fryer, do yourself a favor.
We can get a sponsor from an air fryer company.
Cookware or whoever makes air fryers, shout out to y'all, sponsor it.
Yeah.
But if you're thinking about getting an air fryer for your spouse or yourself, if you're a single person, do it. Don't think about it. Don't wait for Christmas. Don't wait for the Black Friday sales.
Don't wait for the Black Friday sale.
Today, go out there and finish this podcast and then go out and buy it.
And then if you don't like it, you can complain to Byron.
Yeah, I promise you'll love it. I would say, or your money back, but we're not gonna give you your money back. But you'll love it. That's how confident we are.
That's good.
So, okay, so that happened in 1994 was when it was available to the public. So all of a sudden, we have a phone, a calculator, a calendar, a camera, and most importantly, we have a GPS. Mm-hmm. And I say that because I was driving. I'm 6 years older than you are, so I was driving before you were. Mm-hmm. So the reason that matters is because I remember in California going by the convenience store, and mom and dad going in the store and buying a map. Mm-hmm. Because there's no GPS. So it's not like you just type in an address on your phone and it's like, turn here, detour to construction and go around this way. This is the quickest way. Yeah. It was like, whoosh, you open up this map and it's like, okay, we're going, this is how you get, to destination. So, I mean, I still I still drove when that was happening.
My parents did. We went to Orlando one time, went to North Carolina one time, and I remember my mom or my dad, whoever's in the passenger side, you know, they had the big map out. And we need to do
You're
this.
driving, it's like, get that map out of my...
That's normal, though, for us. For me growing up anyway. For you, too, that was normal because there's no other way. Yeah. When I got back from Iraq, me and one of my friends, Polly, and it may have been somebody else with us, but I know it was me and him, we had flown back, or we had just landed from coming on post-deployment leave. We landed in LAX. And you're saying, you know, you're from LA. Well, that's the first time I had gotten lost in Los Angeles. Like we were getting back to base in 29 Palms, California. And in LA, I don't know what turn we took. We ended up, it literally looked like I want to say third world country, but it was like the bad parts of LA. Like there's the great parts, beautiful, awesome. And then there's
the movies.
the movies, yes, where you want to be there. That looks cool. And then there's the part that you don't really know about until you're down in there. And that's where we ended up. There was tents. I mean, far as you could see, and you couldn't hardly drive through there. And there were guys trying to sell you stuff left and right. So you had to roll your windows up. And it was like a little, I don't know, like a bicycle with a bunch of stuff on the back. Yeah. And I was like, where are we at? He's like, I don't know. So we started just taking turns trying to figure out where the interstate is or whatever. And we realized really quick, somebody had came up to us and he said, where you from? And I said, we're from 29 Palms, California. He said, oh, you're in the military. He's like, yes. And he said, they're talking about his cousin was in the Marine Corps, this, at the other. And he said, he told us his eyes got really big and he told us where not to go. And he wrote something down. He said, there's the Walmart. Buy GPS. Get out of here. And I was like,
they used to sell GPS, right? Like
it was a Garmin, yes. And so we did. It was $350. I remember that was a lot of money for us. Yeah. And we had deployment money, so we had money. We split it. Yeah. We went over there and we went to Walmart. We bought the best GPS they had, and we did the little window where it suctioned to the window. Yeah. Man, we were high class then. Had it stuck in that cigarette lighter to keep it running. Yeah. And it sure enough, man, without fail, every turn was perfect. And he was driving. I was sitting there looking at it going, this is awesome. Like it was literally telling us where to go. Blew my mind. I thought we were like in a future vehicle. Yeah. And straight to base, never missed a turn.
You know, when you said we was in California and they asked us, hey, where are you from? Growing up, because we grew up in inner city, wasn't the best at all. And at one point we were like, you know, in downtown LA. And so you get asked, you know, what people say, you know, are you banging? Which means, you know, it's like, are you representing a gang? Right. So they would ask you, hey, where are you from? Oh, and a lot of people, you know, they're asking me. A lot of the people that are in the gangs throw up hand signs, you know, and then they say blank gang is what I'm representing or whatever. So you get asked, you know, all the time. It's like, hey, where you from? Yeah. And if you're not from that area, you know, you're just like, hey, I don't bang, I don't, you know, I just live here. Or I'm just visiting, and
we
they
had
leave you
that
alone.
Feeling that's what was happening. Yeah. You know what? I didn't tell you this part of it. We had our heads shaved. Yeah. Completely smooth. We just got back from Iraq, 2 white boys in a truck with shaved heads. Yeah. I didn't know about skinheads and stuff until I'd gotten into the military, and I didn't know they were a big thing on the California beaches. Yeah. And I think they thought tattoos. Paulie had these arm sleeve tattoos. We're bald headed, arms hanging out the windows. And then I got to thinking, we knew immediately. Well, he did. Paulie did. And that's when he said 29 Palms. Like immediately, I was like, oh yeah, Marines. Okay. Yeah. Once they realized that, you could see they were cool with it. Yeah. They were talking about their cousins was in the Marine Corps, and they told us go to Walmart. Yeah. Get here. Here's the directions. Right. Chill out. Just don't go anywhere else. Don't make any more turns.
And if you don't have any gang affiliation, they usually leave you alone. Yeah. And it's usually they're protecting their turf, right? Yes. So it's like, I don't recognize, who are you? Because even like in a small town, you recognize certain vehicles, certain people, certain families that have been here forever. So you know and as soon as you see an outsider, right? Yeah. Air quotes, an outsider, you're like, oh yeah, who is that?
There's 2 bald-headed guys over there.
So
Marine Corps.
Yeah, and you know that's how I felt when moving here. I was like, because there is a big Latin demographic here in Sevier County. Our numbers are pretty high, and we're pretty diverse, right? We have a lot of different races here, but that was not the case in 1991, 92. When we moved here, that was not the case at all. No. Because I remember they walked us. We did a little tour through school with the principal or whatever, and I was, first of all, I was shocked and like shock and awe that it was so rural around here. It's like so different when I was, culture shock. And then in my mind, I grew up in a school where, like preschool, I went to an all black school. So it was just, you see my little kindergarten picture or whatever, it's just a bunch of black kids and me.
Right.
And my brother's class was the same way. He was older, so it was just a bunch of black kids and him.
And he switched out, and now it's a bunch of little white kids in a rural area.
So then we moved to a different part of California where it was just all Hispanics and just one or two blacks here or there, some Asians or whatever. But then we moved here where it's predominantly Caucasian, and you can literally count probably on two hands how many Hispanic kids there was in high school.
Yeah.
And that is no longer the case. I mean, you take a stroll down the school, and that's no longer the case.
I think in elementary they said it was 82% Hispanic.
Yeah,
or it's 79 to 82 somewhere in there. So it's not the case. It wouldn't have been that if you were in kindergarten now. If you'd have come here,
and it was probably reverse if that I don't know. It just seemed like when I got here in high school. Like I said, I still know who I went to high school with as far as, like, if I say, like, the ones that, look like me type thing.
Right, yeah.
And I can name them still because there wasn't that many to memorize. Right. It's like this. And it's like, okay, that was so different for me. So going to school here was very different for me.
What? There's another... I can't think of the culture. Who they live here now?
Marshallese.
Marshallese. It starts with an M. I just could not think of it. And they're starting to come more and more here now. So we're getting pretty diverse. I think.
I mean, we have Native Americans, the blacks, Hispanics.
Yeah, because Oklahoma line's right across from us. Right. People that don't know where we live
geographically,
and that's Choctaw Nation over there, and it's like 20 minutes, if that, maybe 15 minutes to the west of where we're at. So
we're about 20 minutes from the Oklahoma border and about an hour from the Texas border.
Yes.
So we're right, in Louisiana. It's not that far away.
No, it's not that far at all.
An hour and a little over an hour also. So anyway, we are definitely more diverse now than we were back then.
I love it too. It's just
I do
everything's
too.
so different.
I do too.
It's
Maybe
awesome.
it's not for everybody, but for me, I really enjoy. For people that don't know it, my wife is white. She's Caucasian. So, just getting to know and accept other ethnic backgrounds and learning more about, and of course, like the food, right? Like who doesn't love like tacos or something like that,
just
right?
All kinds of different foods to eat from. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
and I learned it in the military real quick. Yeah. It's like, oh yeah, you think you're racist? You realize, like, you think people are racist, like they're not racist. I'm not racist. Yeah. You get in the war zone, you're like, I love these guys. Like, I don't care. I don't care what color you are. Yeah. I love these guys. They got my back, and they're not the ones trying to kill me right now. So it's like you think, you don't. It's awesome. I don't know. I just then and there, you realize people might think that, like, oh yeah, you're from D-Queen, you're some white guy, you're racist because you're from the South. Yeah. No, I'm not. I promise you. And I know almost everybody here is not. Yeah. It's just that's a stigma put behind it.
It is. It really is. A lot of people will say, well, you guys are from the South, so you have to be racist. Right.
And that's the furthest thing from it.
Yeah. And they're pretty accepting, and of course you have your few or whatever, but it's for the most part it's Southwest Arkansas is a big melting pot, especially our town where we live in.
Yes.
So back to
sorry, we got
let's bring it back.
I tried not to do that, but it happened.
So 6 Degrees was, I don't know if you remember. You know what that is?
Really cold weather.
Yeah. 6 Degrees was the first social media platform.
Yeah, I did not know that.
It launched in 1997. So you were a wee one. Probably. Yeah. You were, I don't know, maybe
97. Yeah. I was like 7th, 8th grade, somewhere in there. Yeah.
So others followed, like AOL chat rooms.
I do remember that.
GeoCities and Classmates.com.
Don't remember that.
You don't really?
Nope.
I remember the commercials of Classmates.com. I never got on it. We did the AOL chat rooms. So MySpace launched in 2003 and became one of the most popular social media platforms up to date. It was the first site to reach 1 million monthly active users. It also helped grow video platforms like YouTube and PhotoBucket.
I do remember that. MySpace was a big deal. I had that.
Yeah, I never had MySpace. Even Facebook, I was late to the game. Like, I wasn't a big social media when it came out. I was like, I was holding on to my privacy. You know, I was
Yeah.
like, because there's no expectation of privacy. I guess you pick what you want to share, but sometimes we overshare.
I didn't get Facebook until later. I was late to the game in Facebook, way late. Like there were people that were like, "You don't have that?"
Yeah.
No, I mean, all my friends are right here. I didn't need.
Yeah.
But I had MySpace before I went to the military. That was like a big thing in 2006, 2007. So I went to the military and I got it so I could keep up with my friends back home.
Yeah.
So they could kind of see what I'm doing. I could see what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And then it just kind of faded. And I didn't have social media for a couple of years.
Yeah.
And then Facebook happened. So
Facebook launched in 2004.
Mm-hmm.
Twitter in 2006. Instagram 2010. And I'm sure lots of you guys remember Vine. That was you
I've
remember
never
Vine?
heard of that.
Really?
No.
Man, it's high. Vine actually launched in 2013. That was the 6-second video clips that you could do. I mean,
So it's like old school TikTok.
pretty much.
Pretty much.
Yeah, it was very popular. It didn't last very long, but all you shared was videos. And like I said, you can't share much in 6 seconds. You know,
No.
but it was a 6-second video, and a lot of people used it. And TikTok launched in 2016, but didn't become popular in the U.S. until late 2018.
Okay.
So I don't have TikTok.
Neither.
I like I said, was late to the Facebook and social. Facebook was the first social media platform and service that I got, and like I said, it seemed like everybody had it.
Yes.
Of
Of all ages.
Yeah, and the reason I didn't want to go with, I never had Vine. I didn't have MySpace. I don't have TikTok. The reason is because I feel like I would get hooked to, scrolling one video after another, and before I know it, I'm an hour in, and it's like, what have I done with?
Feel guilty.
Yeah, it's like, okay,
Waste
like
of
I can
time.
find more productive things to do than watch a cat dance, with with a cowboy hat on or something crazy like that. And it's like, I just spent that's an hour of my life I will never get back.
Yes, exactly.
Over what? So that's the reason why I was like, I refuse to get it, because for that reason, I just don't want to. So social media is something we can actually take back. There's so much junk out there and just ridiculous stuff that's content that's being produced daily and just being pumped out there, and
Pick your poison.
consumers are just taking it in, right?
Yes.
So as Christians, think about how many Christians there is worldwide.
Yeah.
So now most Christians have a phone,
Mm-hmm.
and probably most Christians have some sort of social media, something, right? So what does that mean? Instead of being influenced by negative and sinful content, we can upload the exact opposite and take it back.
This is something I was wanting to talk about earlier.
Okay.
But you're hitting right on the head.
Okay.
60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. You can only pick from TBN and maybe one other network for Christian content on cable TV.
Yeah.
I think it's Trinity Broadcasting Network. That was the big one.
Okay.
And you're looking at like Jesse Duplantis and there's all kind. I'm not going to, but there's some of them on there that not good, not good content, but very popular. And then it kind of got busted because it was the whole pay to get blessed. Like the Benny Hinn's out there where they hit you with their magic jacket and you fall down with the Spirit. That's junk, by the way. They say you got to plant a seed, and they're talking about money and watch the blessing. You got this, give money to our ministry, and you'll be blessed. So then it got really tainted, and so people are like, yeah, that's Christians just want money.
Yeah.
But for a while it was good. It was very good.
Yeah.
And it would promote things like Billy Graham, the Crusades, and stuff like that. Well, then it got tainted. Nobody wanted it anymore. But now I can go on YouTube, Facebook, any of those places, and I can find any pastor, a good one, like good Baptist pastors. And I'm not talking about denominations. It could be a different denomination would be a great pastor.
Somebody just filled with the Spirit preaching.
Yes, exactly, with truth and speaking a very doctrinally sound pastor. And I love that. So, yes, now we have a bevy of options of who we can listen to. And I thought about that when you're talking about social media, and it changed the game. It changed the game for people like me. I'm in the ministry, and if I'm like running short on ideas or if I just need to be fed, I can go on there and I can pick 1,000 different preachers. I don't have to sit there on TBN and wait for a certain guy I know is doctrinally sound like David Jeremiah to come on there or Robert Jeffers or somebody like that. And you're waiting all day or for 2 days to get to listen to that guy. Kind of like old school cable TV, where channels 3, 6, and 12 for us. I don't know about you guys in California, but ours was 3, 6, and 12. ABC, NBC was 6, and CBS, that was 12. So those were the 3, the main ones today still, really. But it changed the game. And every Sunday morning, the pastor that was in your area, like from Shreveport, that pastor who would come on our TV on Sunday mornings, but we'd be at church, so we didn't get to see it, didn't have DVR, couldn't record it. So now it's awesome. I can, right now, after this, if we wanted to, I could put on my laptop. I mean, you could watch sermons all day long. Yeah. And it's just your choice.
And I do remember those times where Christianity got a bad rap for the evangelists that were up there asking for money, like you said. And I remember, and at the time, I wasn't a Christian when it seemed like that was a big deal. And maybe I started, my Christian walk as some of it was still going on. But that is something I do remember as like, man, you have to send all this money just to have God's blessing.
Right.
And they were confusing. Like people like me that was just starting, I was confused. It's like, wait a minute, I don't want to go to work and give this guy I don't even know all my money,
Yeah.
And like you said, just wave his magic jacket and hit you over the head with it.
What's so sad is there are elderly people that would, or if I say elderly, it could be even young people that would give money that they didn't have to these ministries, thinking that they're going to get this blessing because the bigger the seed you plant, the bigger the blessing you'll get in return. Yeah. So they're trying to give as much, and that's not the case because it's a false representation of the gospel. Yeah. It's not right. But it makes me think about the lady, the Pharisees would go around and they'd jingle out all their money and it would make this big loud noise when it went down. The woman had the one, it's like the equivalent of a penny, and she gave more than they did.
Right.
And that's not the way they make it sound. It's like, you give a lot, you're getting a lot, buddy.
Yeah. And, it's one of those things where if you don't want to don't be fooled by what anybody and everybody's out there saying. Mm-hmm. If you read the scripture, right, that you'll know, don't get so caught up in it's like I get my word from a sermon once a week on a Sunday or a podcast. Like read the word. Mm-hmm. That I encourage you, if you want to fact check us, we go off of what that scripture says. Mm-hmm. So, but don't always just blindly believe what people are saying because they can twist the scriptures to make it fit whatever agenda that they have. So
they can cherry pick any verse and make it sound like it is the gospel truth, but you got to read the verses before it and the verses after.
Context matters.
Yes, get it all in the full counsel of God, not just a little bit here and there.
Yep.
Sorry.
So the same platforms the devil is using to lead people astray are the same platforms we need to be using to upload positive, encouraging content. Content that will show believers and unbelievers alike who God is, right? So we can play the same game. It's like, hey, you know what? You're using it for all that. Watch this. Mm-hmm. We can, and like you said, it's about somebody, how we started. Somebody that had a platform said, this story needs to be told about the people, the Christians being beheaded in Africa.
Yes.
And they shared that story.
Yes.
And by sharing that story, that person sharing that story, I read it, I'm sharing it with Jared, with you guys, and it's going, to different places in states in the country and different countries.
That's right.
So it's do your research, and if you are a content creator, put out something encouraging, put out something productive, put out something good. Don't
clickbait.
Yeah. Yes. So social media can be an accelerant to spread the fire of gossip and slander. People are quick to run to social media to put their exes on blast, to throw a friend under the bus, to break the trust of loved ones. And as soon as somebody airs out their dirty laundry, they want to run to social media and tell people, well, mind your own business.
Yeah.
Don't worry about me and my life. You worry about yours. But they were the same ones that are quick to put out everybody else's stuff out there.
Jerry Springer show inside of a social media platform.
Yeah.
It's that
Some may not
endorphin
know
rush.
What about, but
oh, that's true. I didn't think about that. If you want to explain that.
It was just a talk show that to me it seemed staged.
Yeah.
But it was just it's just ridiculous. One of my classmates was on that show.
Really? Did they say it was fake? He was at the show. He wasn't on the show.
No, she was on the show.
Oh, yeah. I'm not going to ask what the deal was.
Yeah, it's just research yourself. It's not even worth really taking up too much of our time.
Don't watch an episode. Just research it. Look at what Wikipedia says, and just leave it there.
You're not if you've never watched it, you're not missing out.
No, you're not
on anything. But it was just
daytime drama.
Yeah, it was surprising me that one of my classmates was on there.
That is surprising.
Yeah, I'm not going to call her out or anything like her name, but shout out to you.
She's like, oh, thank you.
Yeah. So, but it's funny how as soon as these people are quick to air out and call out other people, they are the same ones that as soon as you don't agree with them, they try to cancel you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's
cancel culture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, when I get on social media, and this has made me get off of it so many times or take breaks from it, because it's like, oh, got into it with mom again, and or it's like, oh well, my baby daddy number 2 is blah blah blah, this and that, and it's like, why do you feel like you have to, like I said, overshare, like
announce it to the world?
Yeah, and I promise you, most people, and I'm gonna be honest with you, most people probably don't care about what you're putting out there. They don't. All they're doing is, even if they comment, I know, girl, I got your back or whatever, it's like they're probably just criticizing you more than anything.
But most people, like me, the other 90% that don't comment on it, they think, yeah, we know you're wanting attention right now.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's it.
So it's like, sorry. I mean.
And again, most people aren't probably looking out for your best interest. They're just criticizing you.
The only people that care for your best interest already know, and they already got your back.
Yeah. And I promise you, that's not the place to air out your troubles and your problems, because they don't care. And I don't know what other way to say it. Yeah. The world doesn't care. Social media doesn't care. You have these friends on social media, air quotes if you're listening, that I've had it where people send me a friend request, like let's say one evening, and then the very next morning I may see them at Walmart, and they don't even speak. I was like,
yes,
man, I thought,
I'll talk to you, man.
Yeah, it's like, are we friends? Or not?
You
What's
just
going
requested
on?
me to be your friend.
So it's one of those things where,
like, they give you the side eye, like, what's up, brother? And they're pushing their cart, and they give you the side eye, and they keep going.
It's like, who is that guy? But so,
but he likes everything on your page.
Yeah. And there are those stalkers, right, on social media, where they know what's going on with you in your life, and they may even mention, oh, I saw that you got back from this trip. How was it? But they won't they won't comment, they won't anything, right? It's just like, oh, I saw it, and I don't know. To me, the word friends should be, it's an exclusive group of people that have your back, that are there for you, that you can count on.
How many friends do you have on Facebook? You know what I'm saying? There's a number on there. Mine's like 820 something.
I think around 600 maybe.
Do you have 600 friends?
No.
I don't have 800. I can tell you that right now.
I can count them on.
True friends, yes.
Yeah, true friends.
I count them on one hand, and I could lose a few fingers and still be okay.
That I can call right now and feel like I can count on.
Right.
Yeah, I can count them on one hand.
And to be honest with you, 2 of them aren't even on my Facebook.
And I'm related probably to most of the people that I consider my friends,
Right, yeah. I'm just curious, that's all.
Yeah, and you bring up a good point, because some people get caught up with the number. It's like, look, I have 3,000 friends on Facebook, whatever.
Ooh, that guy's popular.
Yeah, and whatever. I'm sure they cap it off at a certain number, but and then you look at a post of theirs, like, hey, it's like, finally graduated college, and they'll have like 36 likes on. It's like, you have 3,600 friends, and you have 36 likes.
Yes.
So what's the number? The numbers game, it doesn't add up. Like they're not really proud of you. They don't really,
Well, and I think this is a Facebook thing where only the people you watch, or the people that watch you the most, that's who your stuff goes out to. So if I have 3,000 friends, only 40 or 50 people are actually seeing what I'm posting.
Yeah.
Unless other 2,500 look at my stuff. So I think that's some of it.
And it used to be where it seemed like you used to see everybody's stuff all the time, but now things have changed with like Facebook.
Yes.
I just get random stuff from like a car lot in Iowa or something like that. You know, it's like,
me
what is
too.
that? You know, it's like, I'm not trying to buy alpacas from, you know, from whoever. And it's like, but I'll get
sure?
random.
You sure you don't want alpacas?
Yeah. So it's just kind of weird to me how it works. But like you said, it's a business.
Yeah.
So Ephesians 4:29 says, let no corrupting talk come out of your mouths, but only such as is good for building up.
That's good.
So before you go out there and you blast your ex, doesn't matter what they did to you or whatever, like I said, people don't care. Hey, you know what? And especially if you're a Christian, don't go out there and slander somebody or whatever. Hey, you know what? It says pray for our enemies, right?
Yeah.
And as hard as that is, because when we get offended, we're in our feelings.
Yes.
And you want to take care of business yourself, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like I'm fishing slap the taste out of this person's mouth as soon as I see them. Or what, you see what I'm saying? That's how we want to react to everything. But it's like, hey, you know what? Take a step back. Don't run to social media, because that's the first thing people do when, you know, when we're upset, we're irrational. The amygdala hijacking happens, right? We talked about this in one of the episodes. So we're irrational. We're not making good decisions. So it's like, okay, you know what? So the last thing I want to do is put an irrational thought for the world to see.
Well, emotions come and go. We can't live on emotion, and we should never base a decision off of emotion, and we should never have a reaction based off of emotion. That's easier said than done. Because how many times have you personally, Byron?
Never.
Oh, okay, good. Whew. No, I'm pretty sure this has happened to everybody.
Yeah.
Where you'll do something, and then within the hour, oh man, I shouldn't have said that. I shouldn't have posted that. I shouldn't have. Yeah. I've been there where I'll get angry at my wife or my kids, and it'll come out, and it's true what I'm saying, but in the spirit that it's said in, I should have worded that different.
Sometimes it's how you say it, not what you say.
Exactly.
It's like, oh, I'm glad you apologized. I meant what I said. It's just I apologize how I said it.
And that can happen in social media. You are saying the truth, but that's not the place or the way to say it.
Yeah. And once the toothpaste is out of the tube,
that's right.
You can't get it back, right?
That's right.
So you can go back and delete it an hour later. It's like, oh man, I don't know why I said that. But then all of a sudden you see somebody down, somewhere else, like, man, can you believe what so-and-so, did you see what so-and-so, because you hear that all the time. It's like, did you see so-and-so's post or whatever, or their story? And you can delete it, but it's like, oh, they deleted it. Don't worry. I screenshotted it.
Yeah. Well, I've seen that. And you'll see somebody where they'll put something controversial, and it could be political, whatever. But you see, and if there's only like 2 comments, that means nobody really cares. But if you see like, and it's a person that you know here in Sevier County, and you see something like 300 comments, like it got heated in that comment section. So you start looking through to see what. And how do these people look at each other the next day?
You know, because as soon as you read it, you realize it's something very polarizing, controversial, and you're like, huh. And you look down, it's like 87 comments. It's only been posted for 3 minutes. Like, whoa.
Exactly.
Let me go down and see what's going on.
And it's like,
I had my 2 cents.
In town, when they see each other, in my mind, are they like, there you are, it's like, oh, and their heart starts racing. I don't think so. I think they avoid. There's no contact. It's, we'll take care of this on social media. We ain't doing this here and now.
Instead of meeting you outside, it's like, I'll meet you at the
keyboard. And another thing that's different from the 90s that we grew up in, 80s, 90s, is, and beyond, before that, and ever since the beginning of time up until 2000, you took care of it in person. Like, you said, what? And so it's a very confrontational society. Now it's on social media. That's where the confrontation happens, and there's no face-to-face interaction. Because if it was, it wouldn't be there. It would be squashed. You would just keep it to yourself or talk to your family about it.
We just had this conversation with my wife a couple of days ago about. I said, I always had this mentality that it's like, man, I'll fight anybody. That doesn't mean I'm going to win every fight.
I need to leave.
Yeah, but it's like, but it was different times growing, like knowing that you were going to be in a fist fight.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to pull out a knife, a gun, whatever.
That's right.
It's like, you know what? We're just going to take care of it.
That's right.
We're going to settle our issues. May the best man win.
Yeah.
And after this, we'll probably
shake hands and go get something to eat.
Yeah. We'll grab a burger. You pick. Winner picks.
Winner picks.
Yeah. So, but it was just different times. It's not like that. It's not like that anymore. And that's why you shouldn't fight anyway. You shouldn't. I'm not saying if it was different that you should go out there and fight at anybody and everybody. It's just
that stopped a lot of arguing too, because you knew, I don't want to fight that guy. I better shut up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And So many, and let me air quotes again, influencers, and I don't like that word because it's like, but I don't like it because it's true, because they do have an influence on our kids.
Yes.
And even ourselves. Like sometimes you're influenced by what you see as popular, what's in or whatever. So, but so many influencers that post content are so caught up with the likes and views and they look at what others are doing for their likes and views because they want, so they blindly follow suit, right? So many of them have very similar or the same content out there. And it's like, wait, I just saw this exact same thing, this guy and this guy and this guy, because they're all wanting the same results and same following that the others have. It's like, oh, look, that guy has 1.5 million followers, and and that's another word. It's like followers. I'm not following you anywhere.
That makes me think of Jesus when he said, pick up your cross and follow me. If you want to be my disciple, you got to do these things. And it's being a true follower of Christ. And now you're a follower. It's like they label stuff in a biblical way. It's like, hey, you want to be my follower? It's like, I don't know. I don't want to be your follower
of Jimmy, and it's like, so
who are you calling out right now? Why don't you tag his last name on that?
Yeah. You know who you are.
I know who you're talking about.
So, so people, these influencers, they're not even worried about putting out productive, informative, or even decent content. It's just a copycat system that's leading so many in one direction, and unfortunately, it's not necessarily a good one. And I want to read Matthew 7:13 and 14 says, "Enter through the narrow gate. Broad is the road that leads to destruction, and many enter through it. But small is the gate and narrow the road that leads to life, and only a few find it." So if it's probably general rule of thumb for worldly stuff, if it's popular, it's probably not good.
That's right. Absolutely.
It's probably not good. You need to do some research. And where do I find the information at? Read scripture.
Absolutely.
Read scripture.
Absolutely. I think about that. I tell my youth that all the time. I said, if it's extremely popular in the world's eyes, there's a very good chance that we shouldn't be following it, or him or her or whatever it is.
Agreed.
And it's like and I'm not trying to down or diss or anybody, but it's okay. Mega pop stars like Taylor Swift, just throwing her out there. Yeah, there's songs that don't have bad content and stuff in it, but in general, I don't think she's somebody they need to be imitating.
Yeah.
I'm just being honest. And like you said, if you want to go find somewhere where right there, imitate what Jesus says and what he does. Because if we go out there, we're going to start getting caught up in those things. We want to look like her. We want to do the things she does and be into things that she's in. And there's a whole vibe behind it, and you want to be a part of that vibe. You want to feel that way about yourself. When really, God made you a certain way. God made you different. Be yourself. You don't have to be like that person. Yeah. And especially the younger teenage girls and things like that. They get caught up into that identity thing where they want to be attached to someone.
And I don't know what the big deal is of wanting to be like someone else.
Yeah.
Be like Christ, if anything. And because we're all uniquely created. Mm-hmm. So to say, God, I don't think you got it right. I want to be like that guy.
Yes.
And it's like, okay. And I'm not sure that's the guy you need to be following, but again, free will.
That goes back to the influencer. They're influencing our kids because they want to be like that. And I get caught. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not immune to it. But this is going to sound like a self-righteous thing at first, but it's not.
Are you going to admit you're a Swiftie?
No, not at all. Ooh. Yeah, sure, man. Yeah, that's me. No. So there's certain pastors I follow, and they call them hobby horses. So this pastor is always talking about the Pharisees, and he's got this like axe to grind with the Pharisees back in the day. And then this guy over here, it's not bad things. Their thing is like pro-abortion. Like it's like they're anti-abortion, so they're trying to it's pro-life. They're going to these pro-abortion clinics and things like that, and making stands, and it's real good stuff. And I watch them. So there's like 3 different ones that they have their own thing. Like this is this guy's thing. And then after I watched one of those guys for a week on and off, and he's on my social media, pops up quite a bit, and I went to and we put this into legislation, and I see what they've been doing that's good. My mind starts going there because I start thinking, I can't help it. I've been watching it throughout the week, and I'm thinking about abortion and things like that, issues like that. I'm like, it's super important. Well, then it starts becoming important to me, and it should be. Don't get me wrong. But that's what I start focusing on because that's what's been going into my mind. It's influencing my thoughts.
Sure.
So I think that's with anybody. So, but it could be good or bad because it might not be about an issue like that. It could be about, I don't know, Joe Schmo on this podcast where you're listening to him every day and you go into work and that's the vibe you have in your mind when you get into that environment, no matter what it is, good or bad.
Yep. So don't say that you don't have time to pray, read your Bible, or go to church, but you're all caught up on your favorite series. Right. And that's streaming services, another thing that takes up a lot of your time, right? And a lot of people have it on their phones, you know, you see them on break or whatever. If you have time to upload the latest challenge or craze on TikTok or whatever platform you use, don't say you don't have time for God. Because you can make you see all these people dancing around with their cameras set up and tripods and everything and using everything as a stand, recording themselves. You know, they have time for that. But I just don't have time to pray. I don't have time for God. So most people have an account, and some people even have every social media account available to them.
Yeah.
Right? So every platform. So if you can spend hours a day going from not just scrolling, but switching from one account to the other to see what's going on, and off and on all day, every day. If you can spend hours on that, you have time for God. So also if you don't believe, if you think, okay, he's just being hyperbolic, it's not that bad. Go check your screen time. Go check your screen time on your phone. Go check your screen time on your kids' phone.
Yeah, there you go.
And that will tell you your priorities. That will tell you their priorities. Because if, TikTok is on every day for 8 hours, go get a full-time job for 8 hours a day.
Before cell phones, the pastors would always say, show me your bank account and I'll show you what's important to you. Now it's show me your social media account and I'll show you what's important to you. I think that speaks just as much, because let me see your YouTube account. Let me see what videos you've been watching. Let me see your Netflix account. Let me see what you've been watching and how long you've been watching it. Yeah. So, yes, absolutely.
You pull up Instagram and it pops up a bunch of stuff that your algorithm, like things that are, in your interest. So if you see, a bunch of stuff that's like, so, that popped up. It's like, you can see what somebody's, Hey,
I'll show you. Watch this. And I'm not going to show it to everybody on here, but just showing Byron, like on my YouTube, when I go through here. So there's stuff about video games. My son watched it. And there's this guy with the Bible stuff, a certain network of news I watch, pastor, this police stuff going on. So you can kind of get an idea of what I like to watch. Christian Avengers is Hell Eternal Pain.
Who are those women right there?
What? Where? This?
Those women right there.
This? That's not women. Those are men. That's funny. But yeah, I can sit here and I can scroll through that. So you'll see stuff like martial arts, pastors, video game stuff. The video game stuff's my son, because he gets on my account because it's limited. Like I got it restricted. Yeah. But I can scroll through there and be like, okay, he'll watch this news outlet, martial arts, and pastors. Yeah. So that's what you see on my social media accounts.
I can name a lot of people on Instagram that I follow that people probably have never even heard of. It's just like names of people that put out good content, Christian content or whatever. Yeah. So, some do have a big following, some unfortunately don't, because that's not what people are interested in. And it shows you, it's like, I wish more people would watch content like this, but then you have somebody that's putting out a bunch of trash out there. They have millions and millions of followers. And it's like, okay, we're all backwards. But I have this, it says, you are overdosing with the dopamine of social media and addicted to the approval of society. That is a fact, because we are. That's what we long for, right? The likes. Let me go back and check, see if anybody commented on this or whatever, and we get that rush of dopamine where we should be getting a dopamine rush of going out for a jog or exercising or doing something good, or volunteering our time to do something productive or something. But it's the check out my post, my story, and let me go back, and that's where our rush comes from.
Well, Josh, he told me something I didn't know. Josh, our lead pastor here at First Baptist, he told me something last year, I guess it was a little while back, and he said that the guys that created these apps, these social media apps, they will not let their kids go near it, any apps whatsoever, because they created these things and they created it to get you addicted to it. Mm-hmm. So they won't let their own kids, but I mean, they're doing it for the money, obviously.
Right.
And we're the consumer of this, and our kids are getting it. And we're just like the kids. I mean, I'll be honest with you, we can get addicted to it just as fast as they can.
And it's some of the people like in the food industry, they know what they put in there, and it's like they probably tell their kids like, "You're not allowed to eat
You're
that.
not eating that. That's right.
Everything I make, you can't eat.
That's right.
I know what goes in there."
Well, it's like the cereal. In America, they sell it with certain dyes in there that are horrible for you because it makes the cereal really brighter.
Yeah.
But overseas in Europe, they don't allow that. So instead of those bad artificial dyes, they put not artificial. It's actual like corn coloring and stuff, and it's good. It's not bad for you, but it makes the textures look duller.
Yeah,
I'll take that any day.
It's not as the colors aren't as vibrant and attractive to kids. So
there's a lesson in it right there.
Yeah, no joke. So, we're so caught up in posting our every move and decision that we make that we willingly give up our privacy, right? There's no expectation of privacy anymore because we put it all out there. And it's stuff that we wouldn't walk up and tell a stranger, but yet some people have their accounts on public, I think so it's called, where just anybody and everybody, just because they want a huge following, people to see their stuff. And you don't know who's watching out there. There's a ton of people that shouldn't have access to your information. And see pictures of your kids and stuff like that, You
have to be safe. You have to protect yourself and the ones you love.
Protect your loved ones for sure. And so, and even if you do have it on just friends only, again, don't overshare with, 1,000 friends, air quotes again.
Yeah. I was going to ask you while we're on this, protecting your loved ones. Yeah. And we're talking about social media and phones. I'm sorry if you got something.
No, go ahead.
We live in Arkansas. Yep. And our governor is Sarah Huckabee Sanders. Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to get into all that, but she's passing a thing. It's called the Bell to Bell No Cell Act. And it's legislation that would ban cell phones and other personal electronic devices like smartwatches from every single public school in Arkansas beginning in the school year 25-26. So 2025 and 26, that's starting. Senator Tyler Dees, he's in District 35, and Representative John Eubanks, who's in District 46, are sponsoring the bill in the legislation. And this is what they had to say about it. This is what Governor Sanders had to say about it. She said, "We have seen a staggering rise in mental illness among young people over the past decade. This culprit is clear: unrestricted access to smartphones and social media. After the overwhelming success, our phone-free school pilot program," so they've tried this out just to see if it would be successful, and it was. It says it's clear that it's time for Arkansas to ban smartphones bell to bell in every school in our state. What do you think about that?
Two things came to mind when you were reading that. Mm-hmm. One, are they going to allow the teachers to still have their phones and their watches?
I'm sure.
Because it's usually it's kind of like maybe like a cop being able to break the law, but you see them speeding through town or whatever, and it's like, but they pulled me over for speeding or whatever. So
the only thing is, they're the adult in the room, so they need it for their work. So what if something's happening and I need to know, and going on inside the school system, or what if the principal needs to speak to me? I can see for
emergency purposes, like like we see the schools, everything that happens in schools or whatever, people coming in there with bad motives or whatever.
Right.
And I'm not against adults having it. It was just a question that it's something that came to mind.
I was thinking if it was me, I was the teacher. It's like, but they're the kids, and I'm not going to look at it. But
that's just what came to mind. I was like, I wonder if adults will still be able to have it. And okay,
go and tell me, for or against them having phones in the school with them. Every kid.
I'm not against it.
Okay.
Because
so you're for them having phones in the school?
No, I'm not against them taking them.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay, so because we grew up that way.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's going to be okay.
We're fine, yeah.
And it's like you see a lot of videos, TikToks made of kids in classrooms.
Yes.
So it's like, they're not paying attention. They're filming content.
Well, you've seen the one where they go after the teacher and you got two guys filming it. Yeah. And that's set up, that's staged.
They're doing it on purpose.
Absolutely. Right? Or beating up a kid in the hallway. Yeah. It's staged. This fight's going to happen.
Yeah. And maybe not so much staged, but purposely done.
Yeah.
You know, it's not fake like staged isn't.
Well, yeah, it's a real fight.
Yeah,
but
they
planned it out with the cell phones. Yeah.
And so for that reason, now because I played a little bit of sports, my wife did, my daughter did, all three of the kids did heavily in sports. So after school for extracurricular activities, hey, you know what? We're almost home. Come pick us up if they don't drive.
Right.
You know, it's like we're almost back in town from the ball game. Pick us up or whatever. For stuff like that, you know, I think they should be given to them. Like that's probably the main reason we gave our daughter one at the age, and we didn't give it to her right away. We waited. And again, she was late to the party with the cell phone, just because we tried to protect her as long as we could from it. But it got to a point where she was doing sports all the time, and you know, it's like we didn't know where she was, like, or do you need something to eat or whatever. So she would communicate with that way. You know, my wife's working in town, so it's like, hold on, I'm gonna go buy her something to eat before the bus leaves or whatever. So for purposes like that, I think they should have one.
I've seen and Bella has one too. So my daughter, she has a cell phone all the time on her at school, and it is convenient. Like, hey, you need to go here today to do this, don't come straight home. But I seen it convicted me. So I'm okay with them taking them away too. Yeah. And some people would be shocked by that, because I love that they have them in there in case something happens. They can say, hey, Dad, this is happening. And that way I know I need to get to school. Right. So I've always kind of liked her having the cell phone. But I'm okay with them taking it away because it's distracting. Yeah. A big time distraction. And she does really well in school, but some kids might not because of that. Yeah. And a second thing is it convicted me. It said, are we willing to sacrifice I can't remember. It's a quote. I almost remember it verbatim. It says, are we willing to sacrifice our kids' education, well-being, and mental wellness at the altar of convenience? And I thought, whoa, because it's true. And I thought, okay, it might not affect my daughter as much, but it might be affecting somebody's son or someone else's daughter, where you need to get off social media and they try to take it away. Well, then they're over on their friends. Like, their mom and dad took their phone away. So they get better grades, but they're still low because my two friends to my left and my right, they got their phones and we're watching it and we're going through it. And my grades I guarantee you, if they had social media when I was in high school, I had enough distractions, ADD, all that stuff. My grades went from B's to C's and D's pretty much. I mean, I could see that happening. I really can.
It's too tempting for them to have it right there. And even if teachers always walk around with a test, make sure you're not cheating or have something written on your palm or whatever. Right. I mean, on a phone, it's and they may tell you put it away or whatever, but how are these kids recording everything in this content? You know, anyway.
And they're not always looking at the most wholesome things either. So
probably most of the time they're not.
And when we were in school, it was magazines. Like, that's the only thing you could get to where something would be found. You're like, what is that, little Johnny? What is that in your backpack?
Like Mad magazines or?
Yeah, those. But yeah, anyways. So now cell phones, wow. You can anything, everything. Teenage boys, hundreds of them have them. Yeah. Goodness gracious. There's no telling what they're looking at in that school system. And if your kid hasn't seen it yet, and they go to a public school system with those phones in the hands of the others, they will. It's just a matter of time. That's it. For sure. Yeah. Innocence gone. Yeah. So
I don't want to be that guy who's because he grew up without one, that he wants the future generation. It's going to be okay. You know, if for however long you go to school or how many days you go to school, if for that period of time, all you have to do is focus on the curriculum, you'll be fine. I promise you. You have the rest of the days as bell to bell. As soon as that bell rings, here's your phone. Have at it.
Well, and they did a study, even adults, our attention spans over the last 10, 15 years went down dramatically because now instead of reading books, and it's talking about in a book, we give our attention to it. We give our time to the book. When you're watching social media, it takes it from us. You see what I'm saying? It pulls our attention away. And so this right here, I intentionally silence it. I turn off all my notifications while we're doing a podcast, because as I'm talking, I know my train of thought, it's going to be broken if I see something pop up on here. And I can imagine being a kid trying to concentrate on a serious subject like algebra, for instance, for the first time. And I see Snapchat go off left and right. And I'm listening to the teacher, but they don't have my full attention. So that pulls from my grades and everything else.
You know, when I was in Phoenix and I was taking a college class out there, it was like a media and production class. And we had to make commercials. And it was really cool. But part of what we were taught is that the study is that we focus on in 30-second intervals.
Yes.
You know, so commercials are like 29 seconds long or whatever. So you scroll through a reel or something, and it's 30 seconds long. Commercials are 30. So we're programmed for our attention span to be that short. And it's like as soon as it goes past that point, okay, I'm bored. Next.
That's it. We're programmed that way.
Yeah.
Because 20, 30 years ago, I think we'd have been fine keeping our attention on something over 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Sermons included. Like you get on a Sunday morning, and I don't want my kids being bored 5 minutes in the sermon because they're like, okay, next.
Yeah.
Ready for the next thing. It's like, set in, get ready, and just listen and relax and just take it in.
You were almost because all the information wasn't at your fingertips, that you were made to actually read a book and research.
Yes.
You just couldn't go to the certain, you know, we've talked about this before where it used to be encyclopedias, right?
Yes.
These kids nowadays,
Ask
I
Siri.
don't know. Yeah. And it's like, you just read. There's like, where is it? You know, and it's like, but now you just type it in. Whatever.
Right. Well, it's like this right here. Hey, Siri. What's 59 times 36?
59 times 36 is 2,124.
Why didn't you ask me? You could ask me. I could have told you faster. But anyway.
Could you?
Yeah.
But I'm saying it's that easy, that fast. I don't have to sit there and write it out and figure it out the long way. It's just, boom, there it is. I didn't even have to type that in a calculator.
Yeah.
I just ask her.
Or learn a whole new core math or whatever they try to do.
Let's go.
Anyway. So let's bring it back a little bit.
Yeah.
But that was a good, you know, because that does affect Arkansas. I know it doesn't affect everybody that's watching.
Right.
And maybe your state, if they see that it's worked in Arkansas, they may adopt it. And you don't know, you can just kind of follow what's going on in the news here in Arkansas, see how that's going. And you said they're going to implement it next school year?
Yeah, next school year, starting August 2025 is when it's starting. So it's passed and it's going to happen.
Yeah.
I'm kind of curious to see how this is going to play out, even on my end, because she'll be a senior next year.
She'll be a senior next year?
Yeah.
Okay, so it'll still affect her.
It'll still affect her.
Yeah.
Her senior year in high school, we didn't have our cell phones.
Yeah.
Ooh-wee. I'm excited.
Yeah. She might cry, at school every day, swollen red eyes.
No, she'll be fine. She's okay without it. She actually is one of those few kids that she's okay.
It doesn't
affect her.
live on it.
I've tried to use that as punishment before and it didn't work. So.
Yeah. Okay, so we also have these social justice warriors out there that bless us with their opinions, right? And it's like
blessed.
Yeah, it's like
I'm so blessed by it.
They feel like as soon as something happens on the news or whatever, let me go out there and get my 2 cents on it. And they write this like dissertation of like, oh, okay, man, like who appointed you, ambassador here? Yes. And it's like, come on, man, just relax a little bit, and it's like, I don't know. I try not to put my opinions out there on social media because I know there's so many people with different beliefs and whatever. So if you're just going to start an argument, the Bible says we should be peacemakers.
That's right. Yeah.
So
absolutely.
It's like if it's going to stir anybody up, I'll just, it's my opinion, my whatever. But there are people that will go out there and stir the pot on purpose,
Yes.
And anyway, like I said, these social justice warriors, right? So as Christians, we shouldn't act that way in a ways where we're constantly, like I said, slandering, degrading people because it's defamation of our own character and our name, but most importantly, we're misrepresenting the name of Jesus.
Yes. Right?
And let me just read this scripture real quick. Ecclesiastes 7:1 says, a good name is more precious than an ointment.
Yes.
So protect your reputation, protect your name, but also you're representing Jesus. So as Christians, right? Christ, right?
That's
the
right.
root word Christ. So again, a good name is better than a precious ointment.
That's right.
So your reputation matters.
That's absolutely right. I was thinking about something I posted a few days ago when you were saying seek peace.
Yep.
We're supposed to be looking for peace. And I thought, man, I just posted that. And it in Psalms chapter 34, verse 14, it says, turn from evil and do good. Seek peace and pursue it. So
Yeah.
it's just we're always called to look for a resolution instead of being part of the problem.
Yeah.
Instead of stirring the pot, we're supposed to cool it down and be a stabilizing force inside of a volatile atmosphere.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
So real quick, in the interest of time here, so phones have become our idols, right? So Daniel 3, 4, and 5 says the following, and they're talking about Nebuchadnezzar and the statue. And the herald proclaimed aloud, you are commanded, O peoples, nations, and languages, that when you hear the sound of horns, harps, bagpipes, and all kinds of music, you are to fall down and worship.
Right.
So that's when you knew. You heard it, right? So now let's think about this for a second. Think about how we react when our phone dings. Right?
I like where you're going with this.
So as soon as we hear that notification come through, we pull out our phones, we put it in front of us, and what's the physical posture? We bow our heads down to it, right? So again, that's not much different than the way it was when you, in Nebuchadnezzar's time, it's like, oh, I hear the bagpipes, I got to bow my head and worship. Hey, that notification, it doesn't matter if you're right in the middle of a conversation with somebody, you hear people like, it's like they're talking to you about something serious and you see people, it's like, oh yeah,
yes.
And all of a sudden, it's disrespectful because all of a sudden you're making that person feel like what they're saying to you doesn't matter.
That's right.
Because whatever just came through is more important.
That's right.
And it didn't even have to be anything important. It's just you're so programmed that way.
Yes.
That it's taking up the time of you with your kids. You could be at the dinner table. So many different things. In church, some people don't even, silent their phones,
That's
silence
right.
their phone in church, and you just hear it go off, and you're seeing them on their phone. It's
That's
like,
right.
Come on, man, like a little respect.
I've been convicted of this. I seen a thing, I don't know, about a month or two ago, and it was a guy, and he was saying, and he was speaking from a stage. He was talking about cell phones, and he said, if you wake up and the first thing you do in the morning is roll over, not to just turn your cell phone or your alarm clock off, which is normal, but before you get out of bed, you scroll through Facebook, then you check your messages, your emails, and then you get out of bed and you go in, you're having your cup of coffee and you're going through some more things on your phone. And throughout the day, your kids want to come up and talk to you, and it's in your hand. Even if you're not looking at it, but if it's just in your hand, if it's talking about your cell phone always being with you on mine's right here. I'm a prime example of it. It's right here in front of me. But he said the problem is when someone is having a conversation with you and it's in your hand and you might be having it, but as soon as that goes off, you're reading it and you're listening to them at the same time. So that's a problem. And your kids see this and that becomes the norm in their minds. They see it as a normal thing, which isn't good because that shows them they're not all that important to you. Yeah. And the next day, I kid you not, my son, I was sitting there and he came in as I was already looking at something that somebody had sent me. And he came in and I was like, yeah. And I was looking at my phone and he was asking me something simple. It wasn't nothing deep or crazy. And I could actually talk to him about it while I'm reading something. But then halfway through reading and him talking, I remembered that and I thought, I need to give him my full attention, even though it's minuscule and it's something minor. I set it down. I turned, and when I looked at him in his eyes, it's like you could see that connection. Like now we're talking. Now I've got Dad's full attention, and that there's something special there.
And that's the thing, because it once that phone goes off, that has our undivided attention.
That's right.
Right. Everything else around us becomes irrelevant. And if you don't believe me, look around next time you go to a restaurant. And you could see a family or a group of friends all in one table, one booth, physically close together, yet a million miles apart.
That's
because
right.
They're all got their heads buried.
That's right.
In that phone, and it's
that's what I love about old school movies. E.T., the kids at the start of the movie when they're sitting around the table and they're just punching and laughing and you know what I'm saying? Like they're a part of each other's world.
Yeah. It was a whole different world back then. You watch movies like Sandlot and how they're all just playing baseball together and just going swimming and riding bikes and
they're a part of each other's lives. Yeah.
Try it sometime. Put the phone down and go make friends.
Explore, see what life's all about. I don't know.
So this unfortunately is still true nowadays with idolizing something like Nebuchadnezzar with the statue and nowadays with the phones, because you see in verse 4 where it says that people of every nation and language will worship. And this isn't just something that's to the U.S. It's probably worldwide. When you go and you travel, you see people on their phones all the time. You know, it's like looking down at it, looking down at it, and it's like we have become slaves to this device.
Yeah, it's not just America; it's for sure the world. Last year I flew around quite a bit out of the United States, and I'm about to here in a couple of months, and it's in different countries, and it's even in third world countries. Yeah, we go to those airports, and people on the phone sitting, and they're sitting by the plug-in, you know, with it plugged into it, trying to charge it up before they leave, and it's not just the United States; it's a world issue.
Well, you know, the devil is going to tweak these ancient tactics because they have been so effective. So why should he stop using them? Right. Yeah. Because of course there wasn't social media back then. And that's why he used the world trick. He'll change it adapting to what is present day. So in this case, you know, a good example is our phones. How we are slaves and we idolize these little devices that have all our information in it. Credit cards, phone numbers. Tell me 5 phone numbers that you've memorized now. You probably don't.
Right. I can tell you ones from when I was a kid. I got like 10 of them memorized.
I know my my address, my phone from when I was living in California still.
Yeah.
Because we were made in school. It's like know your phones, and anyway.
You had to.
Yeah. So anyways, it's just, and their phones are raising our kids, you know, here, have this instead of bonding with them. You see it at grocery stores, at churches, restaurants, ball games. Parents use it as a crutch to, you know, instead of, I'm not going to make you mine, here, just be quiet here.
Boom, that's your pacifier.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a for pacifiers are for babies, but that's just taking its place. And what is it at? The altar of convenience. Yeah. Because it's easier to do that.
Yeah. Instead of teaching them to be quiet, respectful, mind their manners, whatever. Pay attention to, you know, again, by taking the phones away from school, you're made to pay attention in math class and science class. By, hey, you know what? You're not gonna play video games at church. You're gonna listen to what the pastor's preaching about.
What have you heard more in the last? You personally, I can tell you what I've heard. I'll just say it and see if you agree with me. My kids included. I'm bored. You know what I mean? Like it's because that's not, their mind's not constantly being entertained. And I could see that in school where you don't, okay, I'm done with this assignment. Now I'm going to go over here and I'm going to look at this social media platform really quick, or we're going to look at this. Because they do that. I know this. Yeah. I've been told this. So when they get done, if they get done quick enough, they can look at their games or look at Snapchat, whatever, and TikTok. But there's one class in DeQueen that in high school where she does not allow any of this, and that's the class that the kids are like, oh, like they know because they can't look at their phones. And I've heard that she's mean. It's like, she's not mean, because after they told me, I said that was every class I had. Yeah. That's the norm. It's because the teachers you have now are in their early 20s. They have the same social media stuff, and it's the pacifier. Once you're done, you can look at your phones, whatever you want to do, because it keeps them quiet. And I don't know. I think this not having phones in school, I think it's going to have that boredom mentality. When they get done, it's like, what do I do?
Well, it's just like we were programmed to have this device in for 30-second intervals and stuff. It's just reprogramming. All of a sudden, it's like, hey, you know what? It's going to be adjustment period for you guys, and it sucks for you guys because that's all you know, but it's going to be okay.
I think it's going to be good. 8 hours a day with no phones. What? Yeah. Like some parents that are good parents, when their kids get home, you know what? Every 2 hours a day, you're not going to have your cell phone. Yeah. And we've done that with hours before. So I think this 8 hours a day thing, I don't know, man. I think that's just going to be, like you said, that good. It's just rebooting their mind.
How bad can it be, right?
Right.
I mean, you're actually learning in school and class.
Right.
The curriculum. So we can all do better, and I include myself. So we need to be responsible with our social media accounts and what we post out there and what we, you know. And so I want to say this as far as for myself, and I include myself. Don't not follow Jesus if I've ever misrepresented him on social media. If I've ever put something that is like, I don't ever want you to blame Jesus for something that was a lack of better judgment on my part. Right. So we all make mistakes, and we all, and like I said, we can delete it or whatever, but it lives out there and forever.
Yes,
right. So somebody can hold your feet to the fire. It's like, look at this post so-and-so, you know, Christian put up there. So Romans 2:24 says, for as it is written, the name of God is blasphemed among the Gentiles because of you. So don't be that Christian that because of you, that God's name is ran through the mud.
Yeah.
Because of the way you're acting, behaving, or the things you're posting or following or whatever.
Yeah.
So, quickly, I'm about to conclude. We can finish up. I want to read some of because we've named off a lot of the cons of social media. I have a quick list of the pros of social media. Connectivity. Easily stay connected with friends and family, regardless of location. Information access. Access news, current events, and educational content quickly, like the story about Africa and the Christians being beheaded. Community building. Connect with people sharing similar interests and build online communities. Self-expression. Share personal experience, thoughts, and creativity with others. Business opportunities. Market products, services, and engage with customers in building brand awareness. We don't have this platform unless it's like social media. Like stuff like this can happen. So positives, and social advocacy, raise awareness about important issues and mobilize activism. So do you have a concluding statement?
Yeah, it goes back to it can be good or bad. There's pros and cons. I'm probably going to title this episode "Pros and Cons of Social Media." I don't know yet, but there's a lot of cons, but there's a lot of pros.
There is.
Like I was talking about earlier in the episode about how before the 2000s, it was TBN all the way. Like you only had one source to go to. Now we have millions of sources. This is a platform you can go to. This right here, what we're talking about. And I encourage you guys to be a light in a dark place on social media instead of just negative and fighting and all these different types of divisive comments. Let's make it a place where, as far as it depends on us, a place where there's light being reflected, where we can go in and be like, man, I want to see what so-and-so's got going on their page. And we can direct them to good outlets. But yes, and as far as the phones being taken out of schools, I'm curious to see what that's going to do. I think it's a positive thing, but I know some of you out there will disagree, and that's fine. It's okay to disagree. It doesn't mean we got to fight over it. It doesn't mean we have to get in this big argument and dispute. And that's why they send it to Congress so that can be voted on. And once the vote's in, hey, it is what it is. The people's spoken. But we'll see. And I think it'll be good, but time will tell. I enjoyed this episode. It's a little bit different than what we've been doing, but I like it. It's been from a biblical perspective because you have brought great scriptures in and backed up the things we've been talking about. But I've enjoyed it, and I look forward to our next episode. And if you guys want to kind of weigh in on what you want to hear about as far as things like that go, please comment in there or send me a fan mail through the audio platforms. But yeah, I love you guys, and if there's anything we can do, let us know. Until next time, I look forward to seeing you.
Yeah. So we're not advocating against social media or cell phones. All we're saying is to please be responsible, mature, and kind for whatever you're posting or uploading, with your content. Make sure that it's something productive that if anything, why not put something out there that glorifies Christ and gives that. The reason we do this is that even though we're just volunteering our time, it might land on somebody on somebody's ears that absolutely in their heart that may need that encouraging word for the day. So, just moderate your time on it. Your life shouldn't revolve around what others are doing or what they think of you. So the Google tip is don't post anything you wouldn't want your grandma to see. So that's actually what
depends on who your grandma is.
This is true. This is true. So, all right, guys, focus on your vertical relationship, and that would breathe life into your horizontal relationship. Don't forget to tell your loved ones that you love them. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And what do you guys think about the whole no cell phones in school?
Yeah.
Wherever you're listening, would you want your state to adopt, such a law? Yeah. And let us know. You let us know why you're against it, why you're for it. We'd love to hear your comments, your input on it. So for the Vertical Podcast, I'm Byron Garcia. That man right there, that's the Jared Morphew. Thank you guys for tuning in.